Hey guys, Joe here, back at last for another deck building video. And it has been a while. If you missed my explainer, check it out here. So for today's key lesson, I want to go over my thought process as I built Supreme Kai of Time. It is a little bit of a tricky deck to build. Now, the next set is about to drop, so I'm a bit late to the party for teaching you how to build this particular deck. But I thought it was worthwhile going over it anyway, just to show you the thought process of deck building in general. For this one, I didn't look at anyone else's deck list for inspiration. You can if you want in general, but I personally prefer to apply my own creativity to it, and I don't want to be influenced by what other people have done. First, let's go over the leader, because it's got a bit of information. So, on her unawakened side, when she attacks, she bursts 3 and draws 1, and that's it. And then she can awaken if you have 8 or more cards in your warp. And then you can draw 2 cards and flip, or you can do it at 4 life. So, auto once per turn. When you play a battle card with Overwhelm, draw 1, and then place up to 3 black battle cards from your warp into your drop area. Activate main, once per turn, 1 black energy. Choose 1 card in your hand and discard it. If you don't have a unison card in play, you may play a black unison card with no specified cost and 9,000 power from your drop or your warp with 1 marker on it. Activate main, once per turn. Place 1 card from your life into your drop area. Place up to 2 black battle cards from your warp in your drop area. And battle cards you play using Overwhelm aren't sent to the warp at the end of the turn. So there's a lot going on there, but obviously the idea of the deck is to overwhelm. Okay, first I want to talk about the cards that I didn't use in the deck. We have from the set, Trunks, Fusion Renewed. He's a blocker, counterplay, send 2 cards from your drop to your warp, play this card. And if you have a battle card with Overwhelm in play, you can activate this card's counter without paying its energy cost. The thing about this card that I don't like is you want to overwhelm twice every turn in this deck. We'll get to that in a minute, but this card is taking cards out of your drop and into your warp, so it's going to be harder to get your overwhelms off. So I didn't even consider this card. Next we have the Gotenk engine. I tried using these cards, but after a lot of playtesting, I really felt it didn't really work. It's a little bit too clunky. It's the same problem as those Trunks cards. You're taking cards out of your drop, making it harder for you to do your overwhelms. And next, Bardock, breaking free from the mask. I had him in my deck for a while, but I always found I was never using him, and when I did, I'd always regret it, because tapping 4 is a bit much. He's pretty powerful, don't get me wrong, but he was just way too situational, and he was taking up space in my deck, really. Alright, let's go with what is in the deck. So, 4 super combos, obviously. I put 2 Gotenk and 2 Supreme Kai Time, just because I have the old art of the Supreme Kai Time, so I wanted to use them. But practically speaking, it's better to go with the Gotenk because he has the 10k power all the time. And you got the obvious inclusion. A key part of your deck is the Demigra Unison. Very important. You want to be overwhelming twice per turn. His wormhole ability is what lets you do that. Then we have Gotenk, Fusion Renewed. He's purely there just to search for your Unison. You want your Unison to be in your hand at the start of the game, and if he's not, you're using Gotenk to search for it. Now, next we have Overwhelm 2 cards. I have 2 Gotenk, 2 Trunks, and 2 Toa. Now, my thought process with these cards is I'm only keeping him in the deck in case I use that Gotenk to search and I whiff on the Unison. At least there's a chance he'll find something else. The Gotenks and Trunks are intended to be used to get your Awakening off, but I don't really like using that ability. It doesn't seem necessary to me. And the Toa, I would put her at 4 if I had 4, but I only have 2. What I like about her is she's 15k, so she's a little bit more powerful than the Gotenk and Trunks. The critical or the double strike is nice. The 10k power makes them kind of useless once you get past like turn 1. Alright, next we have Revived Ravager Vegeta and Bardock, Awakened Instincts. These are my next 2 lower cost overwhelms. They cost no energy, but they don't cost 6 cards to overwhelm, so it makes them easier to use in the earlier turns. Revived Ravager is just great, 15k crit, and he helps you refuel your drop, and Bardock helps you draw a bit. Next up I have Time Regular Vegeta and Time Patrol Gotenk. I had 4 Time Regulator Vegetas, but I pulled the Gotenk out of my tournament pack and swapped it in. To be honest, I think it's better just for it to be Vegetas, because the Vegetas are 15k, whereas the Gotenk's only 10k. And they do basically the same thing. When you overwhelm, take 2 cards from your warp, Vegeta puts them at the bottom of the deck, Gotenk puts them back in your drop, and then you draw a card. The Vegetas, they're not as important as they are in, say, like Toa, the old Toa deck, and I wouldn't really play them until at least turn 3, because they aren't that necessary, and you definitely don't want them on the board until you have Awakened, because they're taking cards away from your warp, whereas you want 8 cards in your warp to awaken. Now here's the important thing about the deck, I find. With the leader's ability to keep your overarms on board, you need to take a life every turn. So that means you don't want to be low on life from your opponent's attacks. So I found it's very important in this deck to protect your life at all costs. And that's why I've gone pretty heavy on defense. So what I have, 4 instant transmission 10k Kamehameha. These are great for an overwhelm deck because they help refuel your drop from your warp. 4 Supreme Kai of Time. These are like semi-Mafuba-ish kind of cards. They're pretty good. You can shut down 2 attacks with it, negate the attack, and then warp the card that hasn't attacked yet, if things work out well for you like that. Now I have Supreme Kai of Times. They're blockers. When you play them, you draw a card. So, it's nothing special. And they've got 0 combo cost, so it's a little bit risky. But I like the thematic idea of using her in this deck. These cards are in the deck regardless, but Son Goku, Super Saiyan 4, he's a 30k blocker. When you attack, you draw a card, and then at the end of the turn, he will restand. And obviously, you've used your leader ability to keep him on the board, so he will be around to block the next turn. So now for the offense. I have 3 of these. These are very good. Like, when you attack with him, he'll warp cards on your opponent's field with a total energy cost of 4. So he can warp 4 1-drops, 2 2-drops, 1 4-drop, whatever. Doesn't get past barrier though, but he's also a 30k critical, so he puts on a lot of pressure. Goku Man on a Mission, absolutely solid. Double strike critical. Costs no energy to play, only 20k, which makes him a little bit weak next to Vegeta, but the double strike is good. You can always combo with him. Now I have 1 Bardock and 1 Vegeta. And they're basically just only at one-ofs because I only have 1 of each of them. Now for removal, I have Vegeta Unstoppable Evolution. He's a great card. He'll get past anything. And then to mess with your opponents, we got this Bardock to warp 2 cards from their hand, and this Bardock will shut down their attacks for the turn if they're playing a bit aggro. And then finally, just for a little bit of punch, Jumpers. Can't go past Jumpers. So obviously I don't have the Rob Yulu, however you say her name, Secret Rare. If I had her, I'd put her in, but I'm not going to spend money on her, I don't think. She's probably nice to have, but not necessary. This deck isn't, I've never topped with it, but it does pretty well. I usually go 2 out of 3 rounds win, but it gets messed up by blue. It's just, if they God Sealing you when you overwhelm, it ruins your turn completely because your leader ability won't go off. Your unison ability won't go off, so you won't be able to overwhelm again that turn, and it just ruins your day. So blue is definitely the weakness to this deck. And like I said, it's not the strongest deck, but it is a hell of a lot of fun. I've enjoyed playing it. And I only built it in the first place because I wanted to build blue Gohan and yellow Gohan, and all my pools were black cards. So I'm like, well, I guess this is what I'm building, which in the end I'm happy with it. It's a fun deck. Alright, so that will do it for today's key lesson. I will be doing a proper deck building sort of journal when set 14 drops and I start building Universe 7. I haven't decided yet whether to use the Vegeta leader or the Gohan leader, but I'm looking forward to those cards. I'll see you then.